What's the best question someone asked in sex ed? If you came on a table, would it move? He was trying to ask if the sperm moved around in the seminal fluid but had some poor choice of words. We had an anonymous questions box where students could ask questions they were too embarrassed to raise their hand and ask. A lot of times people would just write joke questions but the teacher would read them anyway. One day the teacher reads the question, is it better to masturbate with your left or right penis? A kid in the back audibly says you're supposed to have two and almost immediately starts crying. If semen comes out at 30 miles per hour, how fast does a baby come out? Dear God, the anonymous question box was great in my high school. My second child came out at close to that speed. Doctor almost didn't catch her. I went to a private religious university that did a yearly sex talk where folks could submit questions about a week beforehand and then have them answered anonymously at the talk. Best one was when the doctor leading the talk, scrolling through his list of questions, reads, "What is pubic hair?" for pauses a sec, says "I have no idea," and just keeps scrolling on to the next one. Made me chuckle anyway. So the teacher told us wearing 2 condoms is actually less effective because of the increased friction, and a top mind in my class asked, if you go fast enough, could you start a fire? Asking the important questions. Kid in 5th grade asked what flavors our condoms are for, while trying to stifle his laughter. The teacher responded with, use your best judgment. I prefer coconut flavor. Well, the original flavor was cocoa. When a teacher was explaining that you could in fact get STDs from oral sex, a girl in my grade asked, how can you catch an STD over the phone? Solid question, I thought. Fun fact, telephone area codes in the UK use STD, subscriber trunk dialing, for long distance calls. So in the 1960s and 70s it was new and exciting to have a phone with STD. The teacher told us the average penis size. Girl beside me whips out a ruler, marks it and proclaims that's tiny. She then proceeded to ask if the balls slide into, followed by a hand motion and a sklurp sound. Had us all in stitches. There was a girl I was friends with in high school who was pretty fun, but known as a more, well, intimate person. She was dating a 26-year-old when she was 16. Stuff like that. When I took sex ed with her, her best gem of a conversation with our teacher went something like, you know how when guys climax, before the ejaculate, comes out, there's a pre-ejaculate? Teacher, yes. Why? Can this pre-ejaculate get someone pregnant? Teacher, yes. There can still be sperm cells present. Well, that sure sucks. Can I please be excused? She texted me later and told me she wasn't pregnant. Thank God, but the timing of it was like a sitcom. During student teaching I heard of a question a kid asked. Kid raised his hand and asked, so, if the mom were to have breast cancer, would her milk still be safe for the baby to drink? The teacher thought it was a very out of the box question, but unique, and praised the kid for thinking of it. I think they said their response was something along the lines of, the mom probably wouldn't be in any shape to breastfeed. So the kid says, oh, okay, so could a baby still drink milk out of the dad's penis? But the teacher had to turn around to avoid losing it in front of the kids. That is actually a tad worrying. Does peanut butter make your boobs grow bigger? This was asked by one of the most popular girls in class in 5th grade. When I was in 6th grade, we had something called FLE. I think it stood for Family Life Education or something. That was pretty much a sex ed class. It wasn't co-ed, so all of us 11 and 12-year-old guys were being taught by my homeroom teacher and the computer teacher. They gave us index cards to write questions down, and someone asked, how do whales have sex? The teachers thought it was funny but they didn't answer, and after a few minutes I guess someone asked again because comp. Teacher asks, okay, what's up with you guys and whales? Now I kinda want to know. We had a box where people could write a question they were too embarrassed to ask and someone would read them aloud for the teacher to answer. The best one was, if I'm doing a girl in the butt and she farts, will my balls explode? Girl drawing male genitalia on the whiteboard and then asks herself quietly, but loud enough for people to hear, are the balls in front of the penis or behind? I remember when the abstinence only crew came to our class, and presented their spiel about how life is so much better if you wait until marriage and all that. Then presented an opportunity to ask a question anonymously by dropping your question in a box. One kid asked how deep the butthole goes. Well, if you go deep enough it comes back out. Someone asked our teacher what an orgasm was and they just replied, I wouldn't know. Not the best question, but the best answer. Took me 6 years to realize how golden it was. Savage. She ripped her his own self. Kid, why do people bounce up and down when they have sex? Teacher, very casually, I don't know. I guess they just think it feels better that way. Our teacher was telling us the different methods of pregnancy and STD prevention, and he said that the only way to 100% prevent both is abstinence. A guy said, where can you buy an abstinence? The same place you buy anime body pillows. In middle school sex ed, our educator was about to go on her spiel about abstinence. A golden exchange went down a little something like this. We're going to talk about a certain concept today. It starts with the letter A. Who knows what we might be talking about? A 12-year-old girl shouts across the room, anal. My 9th grade sex ed teacher liked to pick on the students a little bit for fun, and he asked one of the boys, what would you do if you walked into your room and there was a naked woman on your bed? The kid immediately said, is it my mom? Roll Tide. I have spent many years teaching sex ed. In that time many obscure questions have been asked and I have prided myself on keeping a straight face and answering professionally, apart from once. Class of 13 years old boys and girls. Boy at the far end of my classroom, so what happens if I wee up her when we are having sex? Quick as you like a girl quit, she'll dump you, you daft. I did that once and she said it turned her on. For our 5th grade, 10-year-olds or so, sex ed, we had to turn in any questions on anonymous noticards. One person just wrote, why do people have sex? They had a good point. The video we watched didn't say anything about sex being enjoyable or rewarding at all, just the mechanics of it. For kids who haven't developed sexual urges yet, it's weird to think about. Sometimes I think about the actual mechanics of sex and realize how weird it probably looks to somebody that's completely disinterested in it. I mean, when my school started sex ed I found the whole process pretty revolting. Didn't help to learn about oral anal sex too. With a diagram of a vagina projected on the wall, a kid raised his hand, said, I have a question. Everybody stopped and looked at him. The teacher said, alright, go ahead. So that's where I put it in right. The teacher says, well, if you're talking about intercourse then, yes. The kid spoke loud enough for the room to hear as he made a little note, put dong in P, then said, okay, can we go now? I can't stop laughing. Our teacher told the class that since we wouldn't ask a single question at the end of the 3-day class, we each had to write a question on a piece of paper, fold it up, and give it to him. He only chose a few pieces of paper to read from and mine was the first. Can you have 3 biological parents? Me and a few of my buddies had been debating this for a while and I wanted to prove to them that it wasn't possible. So he read it and got pretty pee and said, no, it's not possible. Y'all are some messed up kids. Everyone was laughing, which further made him mad. He angrily read the rest of the notes and then had the principal come talk to the class for quite a while. My kid might have asked something like that. Since we breed dogs and the family was always very clear about how dog sex worked, a litter could have multiple biological parents. Posted this another time. Happened in 5th grade. Not really a question but still funny as heck. Kid 1. What happens if the condom breaks? Teacher, then your partner will become pregnant. Kid 2. Oh crap. Teacher. Kid 2. Are you trying to tell me that you are sexually active? Kid 2. No, not since I lost your mom's phone number. That kid was suspended for a week. Worth it. Is a dildo a fruit? The foggy part for me is I don't quite remember if the guy asked this question during a sex ed class, or just in the middle of regular class. We had the anonymous question box. Best submission from my grade was, is masturbation possible for women? And if so, demonstrate. Wasn't from a student, but the teacher said one of the stupidest things he'd ever heard. He said he classifies oral sex as the same as vaginal sex because the CM can drip down into her pee from her mouth and impregnate her. I was stunned. never tell methods. What happens when you pull your foreskin back too far? Lots of pain and blood, along with a quick trip to the hospital is what happens. It's not fun. Maybe. I ended up tearing my foreskin loose from around the head of my dong during puberty. Turns out if I had let it go I may have had phimosis, or foreskin dong, where the fun parts of the penis are covered by the useless dang foreskin. Glad I did it in hindsight, but there was blood and tears shed that night. Is cunnilingus when a girl pees in your hair? Immediately after I told him that's what cunnilingus was, he decked me after school. Good day. Only if you're really good at it. My favorite reply to a question was a 5th grade girl. When I wipe, I can see I have some hair down there. How do I get rid of it? Of course my response is along the lines of, it's natural, you don't need to get rid of it, it protects your body. To which a sassy little thing replied to her with a wave her hand, girl, my mom gets a Brazilian, I'm just gonna do that. I had a hard time keeping a straight face. There was a kid in my grade who always asked some fairly strange questions during sex ed. Highlights include when he asked if a bug could crawl into a urethra and if he could get off with a glass of water as a sex toy. I don't know about bugs, but I think there's a fish in South America or something that will do that if given the opportunity. 7th grade biology, not sex ed. We were talking about the two-headed girl, S. My friend asked which one felt the orgasm when they had sex and what the other head is supposed to do when they're having sex. Do they look away or is it basically a threesome? I nearly busted a nut myself from laughing so hard. Sex ed in an all-boys school. The lecturer mentioned that HIV can be transmitted by oral and anal sex due to the bodily fluid transfer during said events. Then she said that the HIV virus cannot survive long exposures to air. I put 2 and 2 together and asked, so is sex airtight, while miming the penetration act with my fingers. Got detention for a week. If 2 bearded men kiss, will they get crabs? What's middle school? Centerville, Ohio, circa 1981. Credit the anonymous question submission box, and a teacher willing to read out loud whatever questions come out of the box. I missed the steam on this thread, but frick it. We had a gay dude with HIV come to my summer camp to do a sex ed talk. He asked if we had any questions, saying literally any question. Someone took it literally and asked, what's the biggest dong you've ever taken? Without missing a beat, the instructor said, bigger than yours. I was in 7th grade with a kid who got held back at least twice. We were both in the same class for Project Respect, aka Don't Rap and Don't Tap. The one day we were discussing STDs and the instructor asked how they were spread. Held back kid taught us about sex toys that day. Showing how young I am here. I was in high school when Jersey Shore was in its heyday. There is an episode where Snooki refuses to go into the ocean because it's full of frickin' whale sperm. So a girl in my class asked our health teacher if the ocean was, in fact, full of whale semen. Saw a picture of a whale load, said they skied 300 gallons. Only 10% gets to destination. That leaves 270 gallon wad floating around. We had an anonymous question box. There weren't as too many questions put in the box, and more were serious than I expected. Anyway, best one came just after the teacher had answered about 10 in a row from this one kid. The teacher says, looks at the next one and says, I bet that this one is from you as well. Jake. Fake name. Jake pounds off his chest a few times and says something to the effect of course it was me. The question was, is it safe to masturbate 10 plus times a day? Jake immediately tries to deny that it was him, but nobody believed him. Even the teacher was laughing so hard that his head turned red. He was bald. To make it better, the teacher answered the question seriously after he regained some control of the class. Fun times. So there's anal sex and oral sex. Is there such a thing as nasal sex? The teacher answered, if you are small enough, I guess. Not quite sex ed, but my high school brought in a guy that specialized in STDs to teach us about them, how to recognize when we or our partner is infected, and how to protect against them in general. He had an anonymous QA section where people wrote down their question on paper and put it in a box. Then he randomly drew and discussed. Most of the questions were either decent ones or your basic dong jokes, but then he pulled one out and read, is it safe to have sex with my dog? And everyone just burst out laughing. After a moment or two of the teachers getting everyone calmed down, he started talking. We were all expecting him to launch into how this was disgusting and unsafe, etc etc. We completely lost our crap when he went on to not only say that it was perfectly safe, apparently the only known STD transmissible between humans and canines results in a flu-like infection for a few weeks and that's it. But he actually went on to say that since humans and dogs cannot get pregnant from each other, he actually recommends this. The horror on our teachers' faces was absolutely priceless. It is truly a shame that this happened in the days before smartphones were really a thing. That crap was front page grade madness. A guy in our 5th grade sex ed class asked if he could fit his entire head inside a vagina, and then proceeded to sing A Whole New World. Dude was 10. I always liked the urban legend about a ditzy blonde after being told that male sperm was made up mostly of fructose, sugar, asked if that was the case and why did it taste so salty. I like the urban legend about a biology class where they were looking at cheek cells taken from the students under microscopes. Someone noticed sperm swimming around in the slide of one girl. Someone asked if you could use saran wrap, the crinkly plastic candy wrappers for stuff like Jolly Ranchers, as a makeshift condom. The entire class couldn't help laughing and we got in trouble because we had to all agree to be mature. You can't make freshmen act mature. Where is the clitoris? On a website it says at the crest of the labia. What does that mean? What does the female vagina look like? Dwight Schrute. Can you still get pregnant if his penis is too small and can't reach the cervix? Professor Speaker Person looked high as frick trying to comprehend that one. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.